Hi everyone, Jane here. Thank you for watching my video today. Today I am going to create a fairly simple sort of project in this art journal. This is an Art by Marlene journal. It's one where you take the pages out because they're in with like a ring binder. I do enjoy this kind of journal every now and again, but I do really love my stitched journals as well. But sometimes you just want to do things where having the page separate is a little bit handy. So I was sort of feeling a little bit like I wasn't sure what to do. You know, sometimes you get a bit of decision fatigue where you've got so many things, so many products to choose from, and you just really sort of become a bit weary of what you want to choose. So I went with some classics, and I do find that this is one of those things to do that if you're ever feeling like, oh, I want to do something, I don't know what to do. I often say to go back and make something that you've maybe made before, or go to your go-tos, and this is my go-to colours, and I'm going with distress inks because they are sort of where I started in art journaling, using distress inks, and they are a nice sort of quite easy medium to use. So I've gone for my three classic colours that I really love to use. They work well together, and they're sort of three primary colours. There's mustard seed, picked raspberry and peacock feathers, and I've got out two different sorts of tools to use with them. I got out my foam blending sponges, and as I was using them I remembered why I don't overly like using them. They do have a tendency to shed and get little bits of colour where I didn't want them, but you know, I made do. It's only for art journaling, it's not going on a wall or anything. And then I also got out the little stencil brushes. I only really wanted to use these for using with this stencil. Now this stencil is like a Moroccan tile. As always, I will list what I've used down in the description box below. And I just wanted to go through with the peacock feathers for this bit. So I didn't want the colour everywhere. I was trying to go for quite a subtle sort of look. I did like put quite a bit of the ink from the pink certainly off onto the matte first because I didn't want it to come through really dark and bright. So I'm sort of just adding a little bit of colour and a little bit of texture. So this is building up my first layer. So when I talk about, you know, we're building up layers but without extra dimension, this is what I mean. So all the layers will be building up, but they will be flat to the page. There will be no extra bulk to this page at all. And this is something you can do really easily using things like inks and stencils and stamps. So once I'd put that bit of stenciling in, I wanted a little bit of extra texture in that background with some stamping. And so I've chosen this stamp from I think it's the Inky bird stamp set. Again, like I say, it will be listed in the description box. And I use the same colour I've done with the stenciling, and this is something I also do when I'm sort of feeling a little bit like overwhelmed with different products, different mediums. I will stick to the same one to use for my different parts of the project. That takes away the decision making, but it also then gives you a really nice cohesive look to your project. Now I've got this little bird, and I want this to be the focal point. I want some black on this page, and whenever you add black, it's going to draw your eye in because it becomes the most dominant colour. If you ever want to do something where maybe you don't want it to be so prominent, something like a grey ink or a dark blue ink can give you a sort of a focal point, but without that as much of an intensity as black sometimes can do. Sometimes the black can maybe look a little bit too bold, but I really wanted that on this page. So I've stamped with the VersaFine ink because I knew I was going to use water reactive products. And then after that had dried, I wanted to go in with a little bit more detail. I wanted a bit more interest to this page. So building up those layers again. So we've got the layer of stenciling, then the stamping in the background, and now we're going in with some more stenciling, but in a different sort of way. So this is like a drawing guide stencil, and I'm using my Unipin 0.6 just to add some shapes. Now, by putting the birds down first, this meant that when I went over with these circles, I could make sure to draw the circles so they don't go over the bird. If I'd drawn the circles in first and then tried to put the birds in, it would have been a bit more tricky. So I'm just having a look. I didn't have much of a plan with this page. I was just sort of going with the flow, doing what I felt looked right. And once I'd put those circles in, I thought, oh, I would like some little like dangly bits coming off, a bit like a dream catcher or a wind chime, that sort of vibe, because it's quite a pretty colour palette, pretty images, and I just felt that that really went with it. Once I was happy with what I've been drawn in, I got my watercolour paints out. My big tin that I really do enjoy using. So it's a mixture Daniel Smith, Core by Golden and Rosa Gallery. Not sure which ones I used mostly. I used a mixture, I think, in this one. I also used quite a bit of the paint that was already on my tin. This is one of the things that's so good with watercolour, is that even once you finish, if you've got paint left over on the tin lid, just leaving it to dry out, and then you can always go back. Some of them I won't know what colours they are because there'll be ones I've mixed up, but that sometimes makes it a bit fun. So I'm going over where there may be some distress ink. Now, distress ink is a very reactive product. It's specifically made to be able to do lots of sort of distress techniques and water techniques so that you can create lots of different lovely fun effects. But I have found that with a lot of products, even water reactive products, that if you are careful when you lay over with other products, you don't get too much movement. Now, if the colour underneath had mixed in a little bit with my paint, I wasn't specifically worried about that. Now, if that's something obviously that you might be concerned about, then you need to think about what products you're using, that you're laying down first for your stenciling and your stamping before you add on something else. Or you can get things like workable fixatives that you can spray and then work on top of, so it will seal one layer in. That's not what I tend to like to do. I just sort of go with the flow quite often, or I think about what materials I'm using. You can also, I do believe, use the distress glaze to seal things in, but I have got some distress glaze and I am still intending to do a video using it and playing around with the effects you can get. I don't tend to use that. Well, I don't not tend to use it. I don't use it. I haven't used it for that. Like I say, I'm quite happy to allow colours to blend if they want to. Now, if you are a little bit gentle as well when you're applying your colour, which you can be with watercolour because you can almost sort of drop the colour in, then I find that the distress ink doesn't move so much anyway. So, it's up to you how you want to use your different mediums, but that's how I personally like to use mine. So the final thing that I wanted to do with this project today was just to add a sentiment, and these are the Tim Holtz labels sentiments. This set is called Thoughts, and it had to be free to fly with these pretty little birdies on there. Had a little decision where I wanted to put it, but I went with what I chose in the first place, and a little bit of glue just to make sure it's all stuck down properly. So thank you ever so much for watching today. If you haven't subscribed, it would be fab if you could hit that subscribe button if this is the sort of content you enjoy, and please do give the video a thumbs up if you have enjoyed today's project. I'd also like to say a great big thank you to my members. If you're interested in my membership, then I will add a link in the description box for you to click on and have a little look to see what sorts of things that members will be getting. But I will still be doing my 3 videos a week on my normal channel. So thank you ever so much, and until the next time, bye bye.